Hello, everybody.
Hello out there.
Good evening to you. Welcome to another Heart to Heart with Pastor and myself here at Cornerstone Virtual Church.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good night.
And we have our friend Pastor Norman with us, our spiritual son. Hey, Pastor Norman.
Well, good evening. How y'all doing?
I'm good. I'm glad you decided to join us.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Always good to join you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did. Let's see who's here today. It's my sister and brother-in-law. Hey, y'all. Hey, Dee Dee and George. Hey, we missed George's birthday dinner on Sunday, but hopefully we'll be able to get together again.
Yeah, it just didn't work out.
Real soon, yeah.
For some reason, your volume is sounding like robotic.
It is?
Now it stopped.
What did you do?
It stopped?
It stopped. Yeah, it stopped.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, what did you do?
I didn't do anything.
We didn't do anything either, so I don't know what it was.
It's the retrograde that's going on.
Is it really the retrograde? Is it really?
No, I would just say that.
Yeah, Mercury in retrograde has always got some fluky stuff happening. But
What is
anyway,
that?
Mercury in retrograde is when the planets align in a certain way.
Oh,
It doesn't affect the electronics.
that's been going on for years.
Yes.
And so we will have all those different. Hey, Linda Langdon, how are you? And what's happening over there in Washington State?
John J. Greason.
And John Greason's in the house.
And that's Pearl
Pearl's in the house. And
Pearl J.
I know there are those of you who are not saying a word. You're here watching in silence. You're our what they call them, our
secret disciples.
Secret disciples.
Yeah. I like that. Secret disciples.
But it's fine. It's fine. I don't care. It's fine.
I like that.
Hey, Adrian, I'm glad you're in here, sweetie pie. Yeah, I expected to see you on Saturday, Adrian. I thought you were going to try to make it, and I hate I didn't see you there. Anyway, we had a pretty good time there today, Saturday. Pastor had to do a little mini workshop and about praying in the Spirit on Saturday.
So that went real well.
It went good. Yeah, it went good.
That's good.
Yeah. So, anywho, what'd you do Sunday?
What did I do Sunday? Well, I was still in
you were in Atlanta, right? Yeah,
Georgia, an area called Loganville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in Loganville, Georgia, and so I did my broadcast. And after we did a broadcast, we went out sightseeing and eating and so forth. So it was an awesome trip.
It was a fun trip.
Well needed trip.
Oh, well, good. Well, good. Well, we had a pretty good Sunday. We just kind of laid low Sunday, didn't we? Because you were having some challenges, and so he kind of slept most of the day, and so we just hung around the house and didn't do much. We've been busy working in the yard and got to get our deck repaired.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of stuff facing us, but anyway, we're good. We're good.
That's great.
Let me close this email because it's going to go off if I don't. All right. Well, let's see. What do we want to do tonight? Let's get started. Let's do our affirmations, meditation, prayer, however you want to label it, and center ourselves, bring ourselves, our minds and our feelings in. Hey, Sister Sharon, she just popped in. Bring our minds and our feelings in. I don't know what you've been involved with all day, but this is a good time to drop everything. Nothing's needed in this particular hour except what we're doing right now. We're going to stay present in the moment. So I want you to drop everything that you may have been concerned about, everything that might have started a whole influx of thoughts, feelings. Just let everything go. Like I always say, just like you kick off a pair of shoes. Let's kick off everything that has been on our minds all day. Okay? You don't need it right now. In fact, nothing that you can do right now will change the situation. So we need to be present. So if you're in a place where there are few distractions and you can do this, you can close your eyes and you can take a deep breath in and let it out and let all the residual tension go with it. And go deeper within. Go deep within. See if you can feel that you are. Take another deep breath and let it go. All tension's going now. All tension's going. And I want you to repeat this after me, or you can simply listen, whichever is easiest for you. I cannot become, for I already am what I desire to become. Only the body dies. What I am cannot. I am glorious and complete. Everything I've searched for is all that I now am. I am the image of God. This is not a mental concept, but the truth as it has been discovered. The search has ended, for I've found who I am and who God is. I am is God, and God is what I am. This is the awakening of self to itself.
Mm.
At the awakening, there is no pain, no thoughts that produce pain, no dis-ease, no confusion, just peace and assurance. I look out at others with the eyes of God, without any judgments held against them. I look at my responsibilities with the eyes of God, without dread or regret. At the appearing of my true self, the mind crashes.
Mm.
There is no room for a separate view of self. The mind is completely consumed by the image of God as self. Thinking is not needed. Precognition is not needed. Discovery is all that is needed. And then it is who I am.
And here's what Romans 8:17 says, if 8:13, but if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die.
Mm-hmm.
Ye the spirit mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That means in a pewter cup, whatever you pour in it, it absorbs the substance of what abides in it.
Yeah, it sure does. The flavor.
The
yeah.
flavor of whatever
The
you put in
flavor of
pewter,
whatever you put it in. You put in it.
that dwells inside the cup becomes the cup.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
The cup becomes what's in it, except for that which is in it becomes the cup.
Yes. John Greason, I got your note there of sending the email to you, that meditation. I will do that for you. Pastor Norman, can you turn your volume down just a tad? Just a little bit. Okay. Now say something if you would.
Hello.
Yeah, that's better.
How you doing?
Much better. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, honey. Go ahead, honey.
But if the spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead body dwell in you, spirit. He that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken. You know, quicken is like if you cut your fingernails too short, you hit the quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very sensitive part of your hand, and it takes a while. But once you puncture it, you've been working on something and get a pin or a knee or a splinter up on your finger. I used to do that all the time when I was working with wood and as a little boy. Jesus raised Jesus from the dead, dwell in you. He that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal. Mortal mean mortal cement, cold, dead. Dead is a donut with no sugar on it. Dead is coffee with no cream. Dead is a tire with no wind. Dead is a car with no gas. This plum dead is 2-day-old beer.
I think we got it.
Dead is moonshine without a chaser.
That's it.
I think we got it.
Yeah, quicken your mortal body by his spirit that dwelleth in you. And by the grace of God, he's saying that dwells in you as you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why we know that we are eternal beings before we ever found out about salvation, because the eternal essence of all of us is spirit.
Yes.
Spirit never died.
Exactly.
Now the book shows us over and over again that when his body died, the body died, turns to dust, or stay wherever it's going. But we leave it. Along with it, the breath of God that we are as spirit leave with it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I used to hear the story about a man named Nodai.
Yeah, you told us.
Yeah, I told you about Nodai. He was a preacher, lost his wife, his church, his congregation, and go to the bar. And every time he get in the bar, he started preaching. And one night, the motorcycle riders got tired of hearing him, took him out back in between buildings and beat him to death. They thought they had ended unrecognizable. When they took the body to the hospital, the doctor found a little tweak of light in his body and brought him back. When they brought Nodai back, they were all shocked because they thought they had ended him. But spirit, we as spirit are the ones that leave the body. The body don't leave us.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can't bury the spirit.
And it's funny that you said it, because I actually that's what I ministered on Sunday. I was sharing with the people the two definitions of death as is mentioned in the Bible. It never means cease to exist. That's not what death means. It means to separate. And so the two types of deaths that the Bible talks about is man's separation, the man's consciousness separating from the body. And then also when we talk about dealing with oneness, the reason why many people are in what we would call being spiritual dead is because the consciousness is separated from God. They're sleeping. They're not awake. And I shared that on Sunday. And it was funny because I used the parable in Luke chapter 15 concerning the prodigal son.
Mm-hmm.
And when the prodigal son had came to himself and then he went back home, his father said his son who was once dead is now alive again. And so that was a parable revealing to us concerning separation. Because as long as he was there with the father, he was always conscious of the father and he would have everything that he stand in need of. But when he walked in selfishness and separation, that's when he asked, give me all that, my portion. And then he left. And
Yes.
so and then going to the oldest son, he had an issue concerning the father throwing a party for him, his younger brother who came, and at the same time he shared with him, well, you here, you still in my presence, you have everything that you stand in need of. But again, it's mentioned at the very last verse of that book again, my son who was once dead is now alive again. So that's what death means in the supernatural, and even in biblical translation, it means consciousness that's separated from the body and consciousness that's separated from God.
And you know what I've noticed too, Pastor Norman, is that there are a lot of, and I'm going to use Christians because we know the Christian world better than we do any of the other religious sects or spiritual sects. But there are a lot of Christian people, well-meaning, well-intentioned, sincere Christians who have formed what I call a very deep relationship with God, but yet still feel and think they are separated, and still feel that God is far away. Even though we've read in the scriptures that he be not far from any of us, we live in, when in him we live, move, and have our being. It's like there's still this disconnect in our thinking and in our feelings, and even in some cases our belief systems. Even when we have a firm relationship that we've developed with that we believe is God.
Yeah, and it comes from, again, what we have been introduced to and what we have been exposed to through religious circles. And once that paradigm is set, it was funny because my wife and I, we had that conversation on our way coming back from Georgia, how they say, dealing with the older people, they're set in their ways. They refuse to change. They refuse to accept anything new. And Jesus mentioned that concerning the parable when he said about the new wine. He said, "Here is new wine," and they refuse to try the new wine because they still believe that the old is still better. But you haven't even tasted or tried the new wine. So that's what we're dealing with. And we see it in our sacred assemblies where we see the people, they really love God, they have a deep relationship with God, but they are not aware of their oneness with God. And so that's the thing. It's all because of that set mindset based off of the conditioning of the environment that they was exposed to.
Yes, that's the truth. And there's it seems to be that a lot of us, I don't know how we came, I do know we came into this understanding or this seeing of truth gradually, and because of life experiences and spiritual experiences that we had, mystical experiences that we had. However, there are those of us who can go through our entire lifetimes and still get to that point of death, like you said, and not make the necessary changes in our lives. And you said being set in their way, and that's exactly what happens as you get older. You tend to hold on to what has worked for you most of your life, and so you're afraid to try anything different because this worked better for you than anything else. And then the one thing that does happen though, when you're set in your ways like that, when you get to the point of death, there is that one change that you cannot help but make, and that is the exit of the spirit from the body. You cannot stop what's happening.
I wanted to tell God one time, I said, I was before we moved here, I was getting ready to get in the shower, and I told him, I said, look, I said, this body got to take a bath. And I said, if you going to have a problem with getting wet, I will, I would advise you to stay outside and sit down on the toilet lid until I get back or get out of the water. Or I can get 2 towels, one for me and one for you, so that if you think you can't stay in there as long as I can, I'll just leave a towel out here for you to dry off. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to step in there. And when I got in there, I asked, when I got up, did you get wet? Well, I said, if you did, I got a towel for you. He didn't. He got in there when I got in there. That's like me getting in the shower one time, and I heard me say, I thought I didn't have to wear glasses anymore. And I looked at the water, and it was shining just as bright. And I wanted to tell my wife, honey, I said, the Lord done heal my eyes. Don't have to wear glasses no more. I looked in the mirror, and them doggone thing was still on my eyes. I said, well, I have to go start all over. Here's what it said here in Romans 8. Yeah, that's right. That's what it said. And they said, nay, That's my sister-in-law, Renee. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that love us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life,
See,
physical life,
mhm.
death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities. The principalities are more than just darkness. It is light beings and principalities, a group of them. Principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature. I don't care how much juice they put in a dead body and kill it, spirit cannot take it. It'll leave it. Any creature shall be able to, no creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus.
Now, notice it didn't say from God, but from the love of God.
From the love
Exactly. And that's what I was getting.
So our union, oneness, non-dual connection with God is through the portal of love. So that love is when God is always with you, when that love is present, that's God.
Tell me something. When I look at the word, if you through the spirit mortify, I heard a preacher define mortify, mean mortician, mortar, cement. Once you put cement, put it on 2 bricks and let it lay there for a few minutes or a second or a half a night, it will stabilize itself, freeze. The only way you're going to catch what we're saying is not by reading the Bible. If you read the Bible, your monkey mind will get it, but that don't mean that you understand it by spirit.
That I'm glad you said, because then I know I can read this.
Really?
Yes.
It didn't no mortify get you, did it? It didn't freeze you, did it?
What do you mean? Freeze?
I mean, it didn't stop you. That what I just said activated.
Yes.
It activated. It didn't. It, what was froze? Loose. Yeah.
Yes.
It loosened up.
Yes.
There you go.
And now you're about to make me lose a train of thought. But anyway,
go ahead.
This is coming from this book. Which way to go? Here we go.
What mystics know.
Father Richard Roy, What the Mystics Know. And this is a little small chapter, but I need to read it.
Yeah.
I think I got the right thing. Did I miss it up here, baby? Did I lose my page? Keep talking. I think I lost my page.
But
while he was talking.
Likewise, the Spirit also helps thy infirmity. Infirmity is a block. It's a hindrance. It's a speed bump. Infirmity is an ability that's been forced and placed on us without us wanting to be that way.
Exactly.
Here's another one. We used to say, God hear not a sinner's prayer. Now, David said, if I make my bed in hell, a motel in hell, I'm there. He was there. The rich man and Lazarus in the 16th chapter of Luke, even though they were in different places, they could still see each other. Both of them was eternal.
Exactly.
With or without being born again.
Yes.
And that's what again people have to understand, and I shared that a lot concerning how, especially Jesus spoke in parables, so a lot of things are metaphors, and that's how they kind of, a lot of people are missing it, because it's a story that's giving a deeper meaning, is revealing a lesson that is to be learned. And so just like what you were saying, that in that sense, people have to remember, again, we can never be out of the presence of God. It is literally impossible for us to not be out of the presence of God. But what's going on, God is present, but you're not conscious. You're not aware of his presence. And so, again, I did a demonstration with that, and I even mentioned it on the broadcast. I had a demonstration where, if someone was standing, and I did it with a young lady, because we discovered some more seekers while we was on our trip, serious seekers, like Mom say. And I had the person stand behind them, and I said, now, because I'm letting you know, is that person presently behind you? And they said, yeah, but can you see them? And they said, no. So now your senses of sight it is not, it's limited because it cannot see directly behind it.
Yeah.
But now if I have that person take and put their hand on your shoulder, now you know that that person is present based off of what? Another sense of touch. And so that's where a lot of people got to understand. There are times where physically we cannot feel or sense that God is around us, but God is always there. And so that's what Paul was talking about, exercising our senses to be able to discern or be aware of God's presence.
That's good, Pastor Norm. That's really good analogy.
Senses really exercised unto spirit, meaning that spirit has a form and a substance to it that is perceivable to the five senses, perceivable to the sight world, which means our five senses are actually affected by the spirit. So that's the reason why he revealed to me that I can look in anybody's eyes, even if it was a blind person, and tell them that I see God in them. Even Stevie Wonder can see that. A blind man can be at the intersection in a car with somebody driving, and the driver actually said, "Do you see anything coming?" He can say yes or no. It doesn't change anything because he can see with or without eyeballs.
He can see with his ears.
Exactly. And that's what I was getting ready to say. That's a perfect example dealing with Stevie Wonder. Though he could not see, it did not prevent him to play music.
That's right.
And he played several instruments, not just the piano. He was able to do all those things. And you would think that a person that could see should be able to do greater than what we see. That tells you that our senses really, if we operate in our true identity, we would not be limited by our natural senses.
And that's something.
Because Stevie obviously is seeing with his ears and with his touch.
I heard the saying blind sight.
Exactly.
I've experienced a lot of occasions where people on the other side.
Why are you making faces?
My stomach is growling over here talking to me.
Everybody wouldn't know it if you didn't make a
know
face.
it, but it scares me when I hear that because I felt something acting ugly in there. So anyway,
well, I found what I want to read. But I don't know if it even fits now.
Well, fit it. We'll make it fit.
You gonna make it fit?
Yeah, we'll make it fit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anyway, this is from the book "What the Mystics Know" by Father Richard Rohr, and it's a little small chapter called "The Disguises of the False Self."
Ooh,
I like that.
That's juicy.
And one of the reasons it stood out to me is because I'm beginning to notice, and it's kind of making me. It kind of affects me in a negative way when I see a lot of people, and you mentioned, Pastor Norman, serious seekers. There are people who are really are seeking, but they come to a place where they're looking for the spectacular. They're looking for like something that moves them in a way that they haven't been moved before. And they also are looking for another identity. So it's not I'm trying to be rid of all these false identities. It's looking for a new one. And when we're looking for a new identity, sometimes it's fabricated by spirituality. In other words, the spirituality becomes the construct for it, and then it's still a false self. Because I'm looking for another identity, something to identify with. And so it's not relieving ourselves of all the identities that are false. It's trying to find a new one. So this is what this is about. It says the disguises of the false self. And he quoted Thich Nhat Hanh, who Thomas Merton wrote about in 1966. He said, "We don't teach meditation to the young monks. They are not ready for it until they stop slamming doors." And this is what Father Rohr said based on that statement. He said, "The piercing truth of this statement struck me as a perfect way to communicate the endless disguises and devices of the false self. There is no more clever way for the false self to hide itself than behind the mask of spirituality. And the more mature the spiritual mask looks, the more dangerous it is. Thus, things like professional religious roles, honorific titles, special clothing, any disciplined practice or asceticism, all visible shows of piety have always been seen as risky at best by spiritual teachers. Jesus himself warns against them and avoids them personally. But these ego masks take a new form in every age. It is easy and even trendy to bash public religious roles, but it is very hard to critique the current movements of spirituality. Specialized forms of prayer, new up to date postures and teachers, and especially any form of meditation or contemplation. They can also be used by the unstable ego to give itself identity, self image, definition, and power. The human ego will always try to name, categorize, fix, control, and ensure all of its experiences. For the ego, everything is a commodity. It lives inside of self manufactured boundaries instead of inside the boundaries of the God self.
Mhm.
It lives out of its own superior image instead of mirroring the image of God.
Mm.
With the Western isolated self in a state of immense insecurity today, we are flailing about searching for any solid identity. Why not see myself as an enlightened person? Why not read the appropriate authors and attend the appropriate workshops? Why not try on the spiritual persona? We can then concoct a quick salvation without ever really growing up or dying to our false selves at all. A spiritual self image gives us status, stability, and security. There is no better way to remain unconscious than to baptize and bless mere form instead of surrendering to the deeper substance. I know this because I've done it myself. Spiritual seeking, when it is done by the false self, might be the biggest problem of all. In the name of seeking God, the ego just pads and protects itself, which is an almost perfect cover for its narcissism.
Exactly. Exactly. And that brought me back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago. And I heard it when Dad was talking that we need to stop trying to be something and be no thing.
Mhm.
And so every time I'm trying to be something or gain something, and I'm putting all this effort into it, that is when you could identify that that is ego that's
Yes,
actually functioning at that moment.
yes, yes.
In Genesis, it said, "Who told you you were naked?"
Dad, don't say that. I preached that Sunday. Don't say that.
Well, what did you say? I mean,
Because what dawned on me, and again, these things because of us being mystics, I didn't even I was never even aware of it until I was sharing on Sunday, and the Spirit of the Lord took me right to the Genesis narrative that whatever tree that they partake of, it was the knowledge of
mhm,
good and evil, which means before they took of that particular fruit, they were not conscious. They had no understanding of anything that was good or no awareness of anything that was evil. They were in that just being. And
yes.
so I was sharing with them that that is what happened. And so when they gained that particular knowledge, they became aware of the false identity. And then they separated themselves in consciousness from God. Because remember, then he came looking for them.
Mhm,
And the reason why he came looking for them, because at that moment there was separation.
mhm.
And then the question was asked by who told you, they hid themselves because they were naked? Well, you've been naked
Yeah.
all this time before, so you wasn't aware of it. You wasn't conscious of you being naked. And so now he asked the question, who told you that?
Yeah. Now,
Where did that information come from?
and this is the thing, Pastor Norman. They believed they were separate, but it was not an actual separation.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
this is what happens to all of us.
And the prodigal son father said, "My son that was dead is now alive." He was going by the finite and five senses because he couldn't see him with his physical eyes. the illusion of the physical eye. He thought it was dead. Just because you don't see a body don't mean he ceased to exist.
But and that's what the people need to understand. This they're like
People.
Mom said earlier, a lot of people have this real true love for God, but because and I have to say it, I don't even want to use that word erroneous. The information that they was exposed to that was limited. I'll put it that way. The information that they was exposed to was limited, and they accept just that. They just stop there, and they never open up themselves to greater insight or revelation. And so going back to again to when Jesus asked the disciples in Matthew 16, whom do they say that I am, and now whom do you say that I am? One person said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," and Jesus, responded, "Some about Jonah, flesh and blood. This information that you gained did not come from man; it came from God, who is a spirit. So he received revelation from another dimension."
Yes, and Paul said the same thing. He said when he first had that revelation, he didn't confer with flesh and blood.
Exactly.
So that means he didn't go to them for the answers. I remember telling a young man on Saturday he had some experiences that he'd been having and didn't understand them fully and was kind of looking for us or whoever to kind of give him some interpretation of it and what it meant. But I led him into the direction of looking for it himself, to go into his own laboratory and find the answers without somebody telling you what the answers are, because then that's the only time you really know what you know for yourself, because otherwise you're just parroting what somebody else said.
Exactly.
If you understand that life is the spirit of us, the real self, if you catch on to that, it would change everything about the way you read books and Bible. And even in the Course of Miracles, no taking anybody under the bus about anything. You are an eternal being. The walk of the spirit is, I may not have hair here.
You got it somewhere.
Lord have mercy.
In another dimension, you got a whole head of hair.
Well, I'm bald headed as the moon. There's no sun and moon over on the other side. Well, anyway,
the truth is you're cute with hair or without.
Look at you.
That's true.
You want something now. You look so you gonna tell me I got hair and you can't see no hair up there.
Because there's no such thing as ugly.
I'm gonna tell my daddy on you.
So you got phantom hair.
You better not believe that.
You can sense and feel the hair, but it's not there.
Everybody tells me I look like I done lost weight. I guess I do when I take my hat off and that knot sticking up there make my face look
like his head's
little. Thank the Lord, it is. But
you starting to look like Ultraman.
Who?
You don't remember Ultraman?
He's the sci-fi, but you're a sci-fi.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. I can tell you.
Okay, that's what Ultraman had that thing on his head.
Oh, a Iridium.
Oh, Pastor knows all that stuff.
My daughter got one of them Klingon bones right through the top of her head.
Her head is shaking.
Just like a Klingon, like a Star Trek. But now my thing is this: we are the life of God, whether in the church, in the body, or out of the body. My Lord.
Or in any religion at all.
Yeah.
But Dad, the key thing is this. If we were not the life of God, all right, in the essence of God, these bodies will have no activity.
Ooh, I'm gonna knock you out for sundown.
And that's what people got to understand. The body cannot sustain itself. It is sustained by the spirit. And so when Paul makes this statement, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, he wasn't talking about you just being present with God, because we're always present. What he's saying is to be absent or to be separated from the body. I am no longer, I separated my consciousness from the body, and now there would be no ebbing out of my awareness, because I am going to be forever conscious of God, because I'm now no longer attached to this body.
There's nothing to distract me from it now.
Exactly.
Yes.
We go to the restaurant in each state. And if we go to the restaurant in each state and they no longer have a steak in there, we call that a mistake. So now,
yeah, you definitely missed the steak. That's true. That is true. You did miss the steak.
I gotta use that one.
You definitely missed a steak.
We had a mistake. Did you eat steak? No, I missed the steak. I missed the steak. Somewhere in there, I was supposed to have a steak mentioned to me on the menu, but I can't eat steak because I missed it the last time I was there. Do you have any today?
Now listen. I gotta post what Linda said here. And we gotta see if we can address this. She come up with something that just makes you think. Like, okay, she said maybe the Big Bang was duality. The infinite to infinite to the infinite to finite illusion.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
I do too. That makes sense.
Yes. So it was in a sense that duality.
And I remember reading when I started studying near-death experiences, there were some people that were standing around a place and a big bang, a big blast went off. And one guy said it scared him out of his body. Somebody heard people crash and get knocked out of their body, and they'd be standing on the outside of the body looking at the wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never heard of anything like that. But I don't want to say knock the hell out of him, but it knocked the spirit out of the body.
I believe that can happen. I remember getting hit with something in the back, and in my back, and the breath, it hit me so hard, all my breath left me. I could have come out of my body.
When we were crying, those little kids, we used to cry. Yeah.
I couldn't get a breath.
We tried to cry.
They catch their breath.
Make your mom and dad feel sorry.
Yeah, don't go there.
And then you got to hit them in the back so they can cry again.
Yeah. Breathe. The doctor always tell you when you give you a shot and you hold your breath, say, breathe. I said,
Do you have to demonstrate?
Yeah, I had to demonstrate.
But we mentioned last week concerning y'all some of the rock curries and how deep and whatever that we was talking about the theory of the possibility was somebody's falling like a great distance. Mm-hmm. Do they actually leave their body
before they hit
because of the the trauma that's happening even before they hit the ground?
I believe they hope so.
Exactly.
Pastor Norman, in Winston-Salem, there is a Vulcan material place where they got a rock quarry.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, and they were so deep. They dug so deep down in there. When you stand up on the street and look down in that big hole where they get the rock, them big old earth movers that big as a house look like little bitty toys. But at one time, they told us that the policeman was chasing this guy, and he was going through that area where the rock quarry was. He jumped that fence, and I said, "Uh-oh,"
because on the other side of that fence was that hole.
That hole, and when he went down, he had
miles deep. It was miles
it's
deep.
miles deep, and you can sit that. And he made a sudden stop. It wasn't the fall. It's when he found out. I believe he left his body.
That's what we were talking. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah. At least midway, he thought about it because he didn't know where the bottom was coming.
And that's the reason why I said it, because remember, Jesus gave up the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So his conscience separated itself from the body. So that's what I'm saying. Could there be events that are so traumatic, like the falling before you actually hit the ground, that you just come out of your body?
I don't know, but I just felt something and heard something while you were talking about it, while we were mentioning that. I just heard the words, the voice inside of me say, free fall into God. Wow. Let's just do a free fall into God.
I like that.
where there is
Mm.
no bottom.
Wow. A free fall into. Go
That's
ahead, co-pastor. I like that.
and it felt good when I heard it too. It felt good.
One of the most amazing mystical feelings you could have
Mm.
is be out on a trail walking in the woods or the mountains and get thirsty, and you look around and there is a pool of water coming up out of the ground.
Mm.
Mhm.
You can't find where it started and where it ended, but there's something funny about that. When we used to get play in the branch, we used to stoop down on the and just see water running over rocks is clean. That was years ago.
Mhm.
Don't try that now.
Not now.
But
No.
you know, when I stoop down, it's a strange feeling of awareness that come over you when you scoop that water with your hand. You, for the first time, experience the spirit of the earth in water. You discover a water spirit, a water identity. Water talks. In that water is life.
Mhm.
And that life that is in the water is so solid that when you touches your lip, like I got it in my cup now, no kickaboo juice, just water. That water has something to do with exciting the feeling world in the mouth and the stomach that causes you can drink water and live off of water for a long time and never put any solid food inside. That's spirit.
Exactly.
The spirit of God is in water. But we say it ain't in the water because it ain't in the Bible. Well,
Mhm.
Moses had water to obey him, and it was God that inside of
It's
him
alive, so it is
and
what
made
it
it
is.
alive.
It's alive. It is
And,
alive.
It's called living water.
Water is
but
alive.
and that's what I was getting ready to say. It again, dealing with scriptures, a lot of words are metaphors. And so in scripture, water is used as a metaphor, a symbol for the spirit or life.
Yep.
And it's used that way because it represents how fluid our spirit is.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only thing on this side or in this dimension that is very similar to the fluidity of spirit is water, because it takes on the shape of anything that is put
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the same thing with our spirit. Our spirit took on it fitted itself in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Even
And
mhm,
so that's because
mhm.
of the fluidity of the spirit.
The spirit is in water is what causes an engine in a car to stay cool.
Mm.
Without water running through those cylinders and the water jets blocking the water inside of a block and it rotates, the motor will overheat.
Hmm.
Water keeps the motor cool so it can keep running. We drink water, and they tell you, doctors say, drink plenty of water. Drink, and that, a lot of ladies don't like water. They drink sodas and coffee, and then your what do you call your electrolytes?
Electrolytes, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
electrolytes. You
Hmm.
mean lights that are electrical is inside the water? Man, this thing is really something to tell the captain.
That's a very interesting thing that Linda just said in the comment section
Mm.
concerning a friend.
Mm-hmm.
She said a friend of mine was in a coma and her spirit came to tell me goodbye 2 days before her body died.
Isn't that something?
Mhm. I had a similar experience, Linda. Years ago, I was a teenager actually. I'm still in high school. I have a cousin that his name was Melvin. He and I were really, really close, and I enjoyed him. He would come down every summer to North Carolina and spend the summer with my grandparents, and I would be there. So we had a lot of fun together, and we were really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Melvin, when he became an adult, he lived in Philadelphia. He joined the military, and he ended up dying in the military because of friendly fire. Someone behind him threw a grenade, and it fell short in his foxhole, and he ended up dying. The morning, I was in the bed sleep, and my mom came upstairs. But before she came upstairs, I saw Melvin standing in the floor and he was smiling at me and he was saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
So when my mother came upstairs to tell me what had happened to him, I already knew it. So his
Mm-hmm.
spirit came to me and told me goodbye.
There
So
was a
I understand exactly what she's saying.
there was a lady that used to come to our church. We run into through near-death studies, named Kathy Jordan, and she came. And when she did, she told us about her brother, and she had that book out. We used to talk about it a long time ago.
Was he killed in an explosion?
In exploded,
Yes.
stepped on a mine in the military and exploded. But when she had a near-death experience and went on the other side,
she went into his past life review.
And went into his past life review, he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
His body was gone, but he was still alive. And he took her on a tour and explained to her what had happened. And she was an actual testimony in our church. She moved up in the Asheville Mountains, the last we heard of her. But it will pay you great benefits to mortify. Stop your mind. Put it on break. Freeze it. And go into the things of the spirit and watch how spirit will explain to you a lot of the mysteries that near-death people have had. I've seen and read and actually talked to people that have actually crossed over and come back, and some of them crossed over won't come back because they have no other spirit reason to be here.
Exactly.
And yet, you're not absent in body to be present in spirit, but to be in the body is still present with spirit. So spirit cannot be wiped out.
No.
Exactly.
And the misconception is, well, I won't say it like that. I think a lot of us think we know what spirit is, and we don't. But we use the word spirit to label whatever it is that we think we are without this body. And one of the things that I'm probably on my soapbox, but I'm beginning to see a lot of people trying to create a new self instead of allowing all of the instead of trying to recreate it, allowing that self that we're trying to recreate, allowing it to just die, or I won't say it that way. In other words, I'll say it like this: the new you cannot emerge until that one is gone.
Exactly.
The new one you won't see the new you until that you're trying to recreate is out of the picture.
And that's what Paul was saying in Romans chapter 6. If we, like I tell people, before there's a resurrection, there must first be a crucifixion. And so that's what he was talking about, the crucifying of that old identity or that false identity. And then it's the resurrection into the newness of life.
And it's the undoing of the ego, even if it's a spiritual ego. And a lot of times the spiritual ego is the hardest part to go, because we latch onto that identity and begin to think that I finally arrived because of all of the information I've accumulated, or I can speak the language. But that spiritualized ego also has to go.
That's what the Pharisees was walking in, that spiritualized ego. I call it the religious mindset. But yeah, it was operating. And going back to what Mom said earlier, people who really, love the Lord or whatever. Well, I mean, the Pharisees, they believed that they was right in what they were doing. They really believed it. And so when Jesus came introducing something that was a little different, they were so, what's the word? Set in there you go, set that they was not going to accept anything that he was teaching.
Exactly.
When I got off the plane, I was just coming in from a meeting, and I was walking through the airport, and I was talking to the spirit inside my body. I said, Lord, you got to show me something of proof about these people I've been seeing on the other side, because I was I was told that a pastor member had a member of one young boy who crossed over, who died. And they said that all of the family and the pastor went to the hospital to believe God to raise him up and to bring him back, but he never did make it. But anyway, I think he did make it. No. So anyway, my point is this. When I went to the church, somebody told me, so I had never met the family. But when I started walking the floor, that boy from the other side, by the Spirit, pointed out to me who his family was in the church. Now, I never met the boy, but I was told that the pastor, they had a big, it was a painful thing because this boy was real close to pastor in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I walked up to the lady.
The whole church was in mourning.
The whole church was in mourning about that boy crossing over.
Because they were trying their best to,
To
turn
bring
it
it back.
around.
Yeah. So I went to the lady. I said, lady, I said, you had a son that crossed over that died, and the whole church was in mourning over this boy, your son, on the other side. And nobody told me who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, your pastor, I said, the pastor was real close to this boy. And I said, then it dawned on me, I said, oh, this is the one that they talking about who had the son that the church was in mourning. The pastor never told me.
You didn't even know it was the pastor that you were there to speak for.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
And so from that moment on, Robert Sanchez, who was a good friend of ours, was a minister, when he started staying around me in the service, he started seeing people on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been talking to people in the audience when I call somebody out to pray, and I look around them, and there's a man that comes standing behind them, and it was their husband or their loved one that crossed over. And I said, well, your grandfather is standing right beside you. And it began to tell me things about what was going on.
And you didn't ask for that. You didn't ask for that gifting.
No, I didn't. I didn't ask for that.
We were a little afraid of it because we know it was so controversial.
Yeah,
a
and
lot
that's
of
the reason why I asked God.
People think that you're dealing with familiar spirits and all that.
Well, let me ask you this question. When Jesus, doesn't the Bible say when Jesus resurrected, he said he led captivity captive that many of them those that were dead walked into the synagogues and so forth and so on. So did not know people see them, their dead relatives?
Yeah, they come out the grave.
Well, in our circle of churches, they say that's familiar spirits, and that's like the witch of Endor when she conjured up Samuel. But they fail to understand that story the way it really should be understood. The witch of Endor was used to conjuring up spirits that imitated the actual dead one, the actual person that crossed over. But what happened was Samuel, the real Samuel, came forward.
That's right.
And it scared the witch.
Yeah,
it did.
So this thing about once you're dead, you can't come back and people can't see. That's crazy. That's a falsehood.
I mean, even on the Mount of Transfiguration.
Yeah.
Okay. You saw Moses up there. Now we can understand Elijah because Elijah supposedly did not see death, but Moses was up there. Moses did die. So
again, and somebody said
people saw Moses up there. So
it's a legitimate ministry, but at the same time, that's neither here nor there. But it has helped people to know that they don't end when this body ends.
Well, they tell me that if you believe that talking to people on the other side is necromancy and all that stuff, you better leave Jesus alone.
Because he did it.
But see, it goes back to what Mom just said. That's people that's trying to conjure up the dead. You ain't trying to conjure up. It's a gift. It's an ability that you just they come to see you and you see them and you're talking to their family members and stuff like that. And so, but you're not having no seance and not trying to conjure them up. No.
In fact, I've said this to Sweetheart before. There are a lot of people who know that he has that ability. And when they have a loved one that crosses over, a lot of them will seek him out and they want to know what that person is doing on the other side, or what that being is doing on the other side. And a lot of times he tells them, I can't do that. Just do that out of the blue. And I said that one of the reasons why they expect that is they think you can just conjure it up. But in actuality, like you said, Pastor Norman, he only sees them when they step forward and they present themselves to him. Other than that, he doesn't have access to them all the time, 24/7. But by the grace of God, he may, if he chooses to, So it isn't good for people to come and say, well, what's my loved one doing? So that, anyway, we kind of off of a beaten path now, but let's see what Linda's saying. She says, once one realizes the person you think you are can't do a dang thing to improve you, that person is a concept, a thought with no effect, might as well just let it all hang loose. There you go. There you go, Linda.
I love Linda.
Linda, I tell you, girl, you know how to say it. You just know how to say it. You just know how to say it. And that is just true. So it's like, just like she said, hang loose. Just hang loose. Because it's going to be all right. I know Linda always has a way of saying it. She has a way of saying it. Pearl said years back, Pastor's Harry came to me. Wow. And wanted me to walk with him through this park to show me something, but I kept telling him I couldn't go. Now, Harry is her husband, her deceased husband.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So a lot of us have had those kinds of experiences. Mm-hmm. I saw my grandmother on my dad's side before. She always had a habit of fanning her apron. But now when I saw her, I didn't recognize her because she was in her 20s. She was really young when I saw her. So had she not fanned her apron, I would have known who she was.
Wow. It's amazing.
So when we leave this body, there is no limit to what we can do and can't.
I've seen on the other side come to me, even the whole list of teachers from the first grade all the way through the high school. I was given opportunity to meet them under the same setting, and one of the first things they asked me to do is to forgive them. Well, see, they beat my butt till it got flat.
I don't know how we got on this beaten path, but
I don't know either.
And the first thing the principal of school said to me when he came to me at the Golden Gate, he said, "I want you to forgive me." I kept wondering what it was for. Well, he beat your butt with one of them boards that had sucked your meat up in it.
He probably deserved it.
I keep telling her, I said, "Did your dad whip?" Now, she didn't get enough. She missed a lot of her butt whippings. But my daddy used to whip me in the bathroom.
But you deserved it because you were devious and mischievous.
And so the way I
could keep... they said you was a pistol.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
And so the way I would get away.
I can give you an example for those of you who haven't heard. Y'all, most of y'all have been with us for a long time. You've heard these stories. But he literally took a hot iron poker and poked his uncle in the butt naked. He was in the car with his uncle, and his uncle was driving too slow, and he stuck his foot on top of his uncle and mashed the gas. This is the one that got you needed a whole lot of whipping.
He deserved those whippings.
The one that was it water in your uncle's tank?
When he was washing the car, I like to wash his car, so I just took the water hose and stuck it up in there and left it. And when he went up the street,
you were mischievous.
When he went up the street, the motor was going bub.
You were Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, he was mischievous.
You deserved it.
Yeah, he used to bark out for wood out across the wood yard. It went down the wood yard and hit him between his legs. That was a good place to knock him.
Yeah, you was very mischievous.
It was very mischievous.
I walk around all day long without tying my shoe, and anybody told me to tie my shoe, I'd give him a cuss.
Slept in the doghouse with the dog.
I did. Slept out there in the
yard.
Are
you serious?
Slept outside in the shed, the car shed with the dog. So I love the dog. I want to be with the dog. They wouldn't let him in the house, so I went out to where the dog slept.
Now you know you didn't get enough whippings. He should have got a whole lot.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. You made me think that you was a man from the wild.
I was wild.
You didn't see what Linda said.
What?
Norma said a man from the wild. Linda said Clifton, the man whose beard has known more than most men. He is the most interesting man in the world.
Known more than most men. He is the most interesting man in the world.
That's funny. That's funny.
My uncle came to me with a rag and some green alcohol and a pair of pliers
to pull his tooth.
Yeah.
And he
said, I want you to pull this too. So I went on in the bathroom and he opened his mouth up to the side and I saw it hanging in there. I just stuck the pliers up in there and pulled it out. He took that rag and soaked it in alcohol and stuck it back up in there. And on down the road he went. That tooth looked like it's about that long. I believe I pulled part of his brain out with it. At least my brain went out with it.
Look, I don't know how you have to learn to do it. Period.
He was standing by the stove. They took a bath in one of them big old foot tubs, and they poured Clorox in the water. You know, if they wash it. Yeah, he put Clorox on, and he was standing out beside the wood stove, butt naked.
And he couldn't resist.
And I looked at that poker iron that we chunked the stove with together. And I looked at that poker iron and I said, I wonder what it'd be like if I take that poker iron and stick him in the butt with it.
And did it.
And I picked that iron up and fried his bacon.
So now you see. Now you see why I said that. Now you see why I said that, right?
Oh, Lord have mercy, boy. If they had
playing now, so it's time to go. I guess.
if they had social media back then and your phone, boy, you've been making some serious money.
Viral. And look, we still have these moments here in our personal lives.
I mean, I did stuff like that, really, for real.
And you still do.
And so when I was little, they used to lock me outdoors because I didn't want to go with them when they went off to these country churches, you know. And I stayed out on the front porch till they got back. I gave them the idea. So what had happened, I left a window open. And so I would crawl up on the side of the house and go in the kitchen, get something to eat. And when they come back, I was still sitting on the front porch.
Yeah, I would say it again. You was a pistol.
Yeah, I did.
Look, John Grayson said, Pastor, you pulled on the spirit string. He still does, John. He still does.
That is funny.
That's part of his human nature. Mm-hmm. But we love him for it, and I have to love him. Ain't got no other choice but to love him.
Yes.
Well, we've enjoyed you guys again. It may be redundant if we repeat these things, but we're making a point that spirit cannot be harmed.
And yes, we're so glad you joined us, Pastor Norman. Once again.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And look, you guys, if you can give, we want you to do that. If you have the means, please do that. And with Pastor Norman, I don't know why I haven't done this yet, Pastor Norman. We put up there your cash app, and I should have done it already, but I have not. Let's see if I got it there anywhere. I have not. So I need to create a banner for that. But it's $Apostle Armstrong. Armstrong.
Yeah.
$Apostle Armstrong. All small letters, right?
Yep.
All small letters. $Apostle Armstrong. And we love you. And we'll see you back again on Sunday
at 10.
Pastor Norman is Sunday
at 9.
God be blessed and stay safe. We'll see you next time.
Love y'all.
See you later.
Bye.